The old school ones have 3 bags.
Perfect time.
We were wondering.
Our Board of Education meeting. This meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act and is open to the media and public. Notices were duly posted and the meeting was advertised in the Hunterdon County Democrat, the Courier News. Formal action may be taken. We got a roll call vote?
Mrs. Cassidy.
Here.
Mrs. Fiore.
Here.
Mr. Lopes. Mrs. Menser. Mrs. Bogorsi.
Here.
Mrs. Ryan.
Here.
Mrs. Ryan.
Here.
Mrs. Endo.
Here.
Mr. Rizzo.
Okay, let's stand for a flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Art, the board is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Rizzo. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 11th board meeting. This is the first of several board meetings where we will be discussing the 25-26 school budget. Tonight's meeting is an opportunity for each of the departments listed on the agenda, curriculum, technology, transportation, pupil services, to present to the board and to the public the priorities and the items that appear in the 25-26 budget for next year. The next meeting, you know that state aid in between our meetings, state aid is released at the end of February, likely March 1st. And then Jason and I will present a tentative budget, but that will reflect all of the priorities with all of our revenues, including state aid, and that'll be at the March board meeting. And our final board meeting will be in April when we have to adopt our operating budget for next year. So tonight is really our first meeting to talk about the budget priorities that the district administration has set for next year. For every board member, the first thing you need to do to access all of the documents is make sure you're logged into the Board of Ed portal. You'll notice that there's a number of documents, all titled Superintendent's Report. Each one of those documents has a summary memo from each one of the departments, as well as a detailed budget. So we can go into as much detail as you'd like. The summary memo is exactly what it is. It provides a summary of the budget priorities. for next year, new costs or differing costs. It also provides to you recurring costs, priorities that have remained priorities for several years. And then there's the detailed budget that gives you line by line everything that appears in all of the accounts under each department. Each one of our administrators will present their budget. They'll really run through the summary memo, but you are welcome to ask administrators any question on any budget line item that you may have a question about. There's a lot of it is self-explanatory, but you might want a little bit more detail regarding one of the budget priorities or even recurring costs. When we get down to administration, personnel, and benefits, Jason will give you a brief high-level overview of personnel and benefits, and any questions that you have regarding personnel should be saved for executive session. We have added an executive session resolution to have further discussions about the budget for personnel for next year. So, Jason, do you have anything to add about the documents or the process for tonight?
No, just remember that it's preliminary budgets. You should ask as many questions as you like. This is the first step, and the March board meeting, March 11th, is a preliminary vote just to send the budget to the county office. That the actual vote for the final budget is in late April. So we have 2 months, 2.5 months to finalize things in the budget. So this is just step one.
I think the handouts go in this order. There's the first handout is budget and tax levy presentation, just an overall history. Then the second one is budget modifications overall for 2025-26. And then the first presentation that we're going to hear is from the Curriculum and Professional Development Department. So we're in the third document down, and that's the curriculum presentation. Unless, Jason, you wanted to go over anything that's in the first 2 slides. There are more references for the board members. We're really on the third handout in the BOE world. Is everybody's good? Okay. I'm going to introduce Dr. Brown and Ms. Couch to talk about the curriculum and professional development budget.
Turn the light on.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Pouch. I'm the supervisor of math, science, and technology, and Dr. Stacy Brown and I will be walking you through the curriculum department budget highlights. Our department consists of 3 supervisors. We oversee the areas of all the content areas, as well as professional development and instructional technology. And we also oversee the teaching staff with implementing the standards and the instructional coaches, among many other things. This evening, the first item on our highlights is new textbooks, which include science, the Amplify program for grades 4 through 8, Math Ed Gems for the middle school, and Teen Health for the middle school as well. That is our largest item on our budget. And textbooks are not cheap. And we are looking at fully implementing Amplify Science in grades 4 or 5 at Hollenbrook. This is the first time that grades 4 or 5 have received new science materials in over 10 years. So it's a well-needed, and it's been, we've gotten everything we could out of our first resource, and now we're looking to change to a program that we're hoping will increase student achievement. We've had a slower rollout at the middle school. We began to implement that program again this year for grades 6 through 8, and we'd like to see that continue, so we need to buy next year's materials for that as well. For math, we have a program called Ed Gems, and that would be replacing our current primary resource, which is Big Ideas, and that's also for grades 6 to 8, again with the goal of looking at student achievement and student engagement, and making sure that our teachers have the best resources possible. For Teen Health, we've been using a program called the Great Body Shop for the past 3 to 4 years at the middle school. And the way that program is laid out is not the most conducive for the new schedule change at the middle school. With half of the students receiving health instruction at a time instead of a year-long course, This resource, while it contains the same content, it's laid out as one instructional text that covers 6th, 7th, and 8th grade all together. So we'd like to make that update. Is there any additional information I can provide for you about science, math, or health?
What is the name of the health program?
Teen health.
Oh, that's
That's
what
it.
it's called?
They're pretty straightforward on it.
Sarah, did we have teen health years ago? Did we use
We
that
did.
textbook?
It was the
Okay.
program we had prior to the Great Body Shop.
Are these actually physical textbooks or is this online?
They are,
or a combination?
They're consumable notebooks for the students for science and math. And there's also a digital aspect. And teen health, this budget includes hardcover textbooks for each health teacher to have a class set. And then the students would have digital access if needed at home.
Thank you.
For the Amplify Science, so we already have that fully implemented this year for 6, 7, 8. So the
Correct.
textbooks would be just for 4, 5.
No, actually, because they're consumable notebooks, and we bought the notebooks for this year under the title of a pilot. So this is the first time that the middle school notebooks are landing in as a budget item for the curriculum.
So this will be for years. This will be a recurring.
And for this total includes a three years worth of materials for science. So 3 years worth of materials for science, and then EdGems for math was a 1-year contract, and teen health is a 1-year contract for the digital, but the textbooks are ours.
Thank you.
So also included in that is handwriting materials. We currently don't have anything officially for handwriting. Teachers use a variety of worksheets. Some buildings use handwriting without tears consumables. So we will be having a print program for kindergarten and first grade that's consistent, and then a cursive program for third grade. Second grade would not have a handwriting program, as students would be prepared to print by the end of first and then would not be ready for cursive until third. And that's the end of the textbooks. Do you have any questions about handwriting? Okay. The next line item on there is Mac and Vision. That would replace our current cataloging program in the library, which is Destiny. This program does more for us at a lesser cost. So what you're seeing there isn't the cost for the whole program, because it kind of washes out the implementation and the turnover of the library from Destiny into Mac and Vision costs about the same as what Destiny costs us every year. So what you're looking at there is just the cost for the librarians to come in and turn the system over from one into the other. And then once this is completely implemented, it would be $4,000 cheaper every year than running Destiny as it is currently, with more features available to us as staff members and for the students. So that's the end of our new initiatives, and we're about to move into reoccurring items unless you have any questions.
Just have a quick question. So this Mac and Vision allows parents to see what is in the library? Is that-
Yes, we currently on our website have directions. So you currently can log into your child's Destiny account and see what they have checked out at any time. You also could search the catalogs. This would have all of those same features. Anything else? Okay, so the reoccurring items, the first one would be mentor leveled and decodable texts. And we use that money annually to make sure that the texts that the students are reading are updated to what current literature is. We also use it sometimes for replacement books, as the handheld materials are either lost, which happens sometimes, damaged, or the books are just older and they start to fall apart. So we use that money for replacements as well. And then we've been building decodable text libraries in the book rooms as well as in the teachers' individual classrooms. So that money would be directed mostly towards the decodable.
The next recurring cost is health as a primary resource, and this would be the K-5. This would be to continue to purchase the Great Body Shop for grades K-5. We also have curriculum writing included in our recurring items in the budget. This one fluctuates depending on when the standards have changed. When there is a major overhaul of standards, such as last year with ELA and math, that required us significant updates in all of those documents. Prior to that, it was every single curriculum document we had except for math and ELA. So that was a major overhaul as well. This year we have much more minor updates. We have minor updates to the ELA curriculum, as well as updating 6-8 math, where our scope and sequence will change based on a new program. And for same thing for health with a new primary resource with a different scope and sequence, we would need some time to adjust those documents. Those are the larger ones, and then there's minor ELA updates as well. This year, we eliminated professional development funds for the supervisory staff, just in an effort to cut costs. If there is something that we need to attend, we can most likely write it into our Title I grant so that we would still be able to attend something that we found beneficial. And then the next recurring cost is our professional organizations. So that would include things like the New Jersey's Principals and Supervisors Association, as well as individual organizations that we join to stay informed on our content areas. Can I provide more detail on any of those items?
I just had a question, the curriculum writing, because we didn't go over that in text, so I just wanted to understand what that included. And I noticed on like the breakout, there was an ESL math curriculum writing. Can you just tell me what that
I'm gonna
entails?
let Mr. Tumolo possibly answer some of those questions if I can't. But we've been working a great deal with making sure that we have all the resources we need for our ML students. We came across a document from another district who specifically outlined what level of performance the ML student is at and what the teacher should expect to be seeing in a grade level math class. And we really thought it was a great resource for the teachers. So we wanted to create a document of our own that would help guide the teachers to assist the ML students based on their level of performance. And Mr. Tumo will be overseeing that piece. Okay, thank you.
So the next items on there deal with staff training. So there is a district level staff training and a building level staff training. So the difference between the two, a district level will be something that the curricular supervisors suggest the teachers attend. Something that has to do directly with our curriculum, our programming, something that we've seen that we think would be beneficial and we suggest it to teachers. The building level staff training is money that's allocated for things that the teachers may find themselves to be beneficial, and then they put that through an approval process. Beyond that, there's the Teacher Academy program, and then the in-service days and Parent Academy facilitation. Those are probably the two items on here that have increased in costs, and the reason that they have is because the payment for the teachers for these items has increased according to contract in $5 increments. So when you look at your budget line items, if you notice that that one has increased, it's increased directly because of that matter. All the items that they take care of and all the things that they do are usually the same. And that is the end of this particular presentation, unless you have any additional questions.
Where's the bottom line? I scrolled down all the way to the end of the presentation, and I was thinking I would see,
Like these presentations?
this particular presentation, so page 7. I mean, it goes into a lot of detail,
Well,
and I see each of the sections, there's a summary, but I don't see a summary for the whole.
I mean, the whole curriculum budget,
Yes.
It would be a combination of these three line items all together, because on our memo, we have the highlights, but there's line items like copy paper and toner and ink, which wasn't worth highlighting.
I figured that the rest of the pages are the detail. So the top we went over was the summary. the highlighted items, the ones with big changes.
So those are the things that are new to the budget.
Right.
Mhm.
And then the rest is the detail.
The rest has the things that you would see year after year and either an increase or decrease
Yeah.
on the specific line items.
And I see it says fund total, and then there's some, it looks like a summary.
A total for report underneath.
I think I might be able to help answer the question. If you take a look at the detailed budget, if you're on page 3 of 3, Carolyn, you're seeing fund total, and you're seeing a dollar amount there of 196,000 under the 2024 adjusted budget, right? 196,071.
I'm on page, I'm
I'm on page
3 of 3 of
So
the,
here-
so on page 4 of the
Yes.
document.
Page 4 of the
Of 7.
document. But here's, because curriculum and professional development crosses several accounts. And I think this is why you have to kind of add up the bottom line. If you look at page 4, the fund total at the bottom, which is the 196,000, that's for these accounts, Stacy and Sarah, are like curriculum writing, purchasing materials, those sorts of things. Then you see, if you click to the next page, which is page 5 of 7, you see how it says page 1 of 1 at the top.
Right,
This is a new report because this is a salary line. So you have to add this number to that number, and then you have to add the next number as well.
right. But
Yep.
so is there a summary of, so I don't have to do the adding myself? That's what I'm getting at to it.
Yes,
Is
there is.
Where would that be?
If you go into the attachment right above, am I on the right track, Jason? I think I am.
It's attachment. So out of the 7-page document that we're in now?
Yeah, if you go to
Okay.
the second one.
Yep.
There's a major modifications. Is it in there, Jason?
No, so the totals, we don't actually have a page that shows the exact department budgets total themselves. We show the changes. So when you're looking at the actual documents, you'd have to look at the last pages of each document. So the only one that you can't look at the last page is curriculum, but for all the other ones, if you scroll to the last page, the total on the bottom is the total for the department.
Okay.
So for this
And
one,
for
you actually have to
curriculum, I
add the
do the
three.
math,
For
and the
curriculum,
rest, it'll be done for me.
Yeah, you go all the way to the last page, you're gonna look at the 2026 column, and that's the number, that's their total budget.
I can do that. Thank you.
Yes, please, separate things. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
So next we'll invite Jim Belsky up to do technology.
So Jason, we also had just 6 reports if we wanted the totals from all 6 or 7 reports into one document. We just have to do it on our own. Is that easy for you to pull?
It's easy.
Okay, so if Jason could pull that, you could just have it for each totals.
Yeah, that would be helpful, thank you.
The curriculum budget is approximately 266,758, based off of the math that I did.
And
Now I
that's the-
add those 3 together. Yeah.
I was curious, year over year, percent change. I can do that.
Jason's gonna
I am
pull it, so
actually-
Yeah.
it'll be a
I
lot
am
easier
actually
to do that.
curious what the increase is from last year. Do we know that?
So there is a separate document in here that shows the significant budget modifications, which is the second attachment. That's a one-page summary of all, the entire budget in totality. And if you scroll down to the bottom, it says department non-salary budgets. That is the change year over year of each department. So for example, curriculum near the bottom says up $40,000. That's the year over year change.
And that number, that 40,000 reflects the change from last year to this year?
Correct.
Okay.
So it's not the total, which is what Karen was asking for, it's the actual change year over year. But I'll prepare a document identical to this that just shows total sum. So that way it can be added up very easily.
Perfect, thank you.
So do we know, like, 40K, like, where is that falling in? Is it the textbooks? I don't know, sorry.
Oh, no, we're taking.
It's an increase of 40,000, so I'm just curious, like, is it the textbooks that we're doing? Like, where is the
It's a
majority of that
combination
coming from?
textbook as well as the salary increase that there were not as many textbooks on the budget last year.
But that's offset by a lot of other things where I saw there were decreases. Because the textbooks alone was over 100,000, so there's quite a few decreases. So it's, you gotta add pluses and the minuses to get up to where the 40 is the.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. My name is Jadelsky. I'm the IT coordinator supporting our IT department. Our technology team ensures a reliable IT environment by supporting all of our district technology devices, including network management and data services. So I listed a memo. As we plan for our technology budget, we remain focused on some of the key initiatives to enhance our infrastructure. Some of the priorities that we're looking for this year, we always start off with service level targets and understanding of what the service level the district expects for different aspects of technology. We incorporate risk assessment as well as risk tolerance for the district. That goes into almost every aspect of the budget. Some of the specific priorities this year are classroom wireless access points are going to be end of life in 2026. So we're looking to get them refreshed and made a note on some possible funding options for them. But that is really items at the top of our list. Other items we're looking for to refresh and maintain, which we may be able to incorporate into a referendum, would be our district intercom systems in each of the schools, is to get those updated. Some of those systems are quite old. Elementary schools at White House and Three Bridges, the interactive whiteboards are getting up there in age as well, so we'll be looking to update those. As well as our network core switching. We've completed phase 1 and 2 of phased update of our network switches. We're moving into phase 3, which is some of the access points, and then eventually phase 4, which will be our core switches, our biggest switches at the middle school, as well as the firewall. Those items as well, we can usually hold off until the end of life, which we wouldn't life on those. So I would like to look at those as a potential referendum as well. As far as student devices, each year we do refresh certain batches of devices. 6th graders always get new Chromebooks, so we plan to continue with that initiative. And as far as staff updates, we'll phase in different updates for staff devices as we start to end as well. So we'll continue that. We have funding available for some of the technology, E-rate category 1, which is telecom and internet service. We can get funding. We're actually up on a cycle for that this year, and we have a number of bids from providers to continue our internet service. And E-rate category 2, which would be funding for hardware, we'll be able to start receiving funding in 26-27. So again, going back to some of the items that we would like to refresh, we'd like to take advantage of these other sources to fund those. Those are the focus for this year. I also did a breakdown some of the other departments, like some of our recurring costs, some of our new initiatives. Mac and Vision was mentioned. That's a new library system. The first year cost is relatively high. That's just for the migration, but we are actually going to save significant money moving forward each year with Mac Vision once it's implemented. So, questions on any of the items? Sure.
I know that at some point we had to switch over for the internet, right, and there's a new provider, is that right?
Yes, website.
Yeah, website. So is there a cost associated with that, or is it?
That's already been covered. We've been pushing that off to
Okay.
do it this summer, but that's been paid for.
Okay.
But yeah, that is the goal this summer, is to get the website updated. We had a transitional website. The provider was bought out by another company, so this is something we're going to do this summer.
the Mac and Vision that's here for the 10,000, that's in addition to the Mac and Vision cost that was just presented.
It's the same.
So that money was included in this 10,000,
It should be.
or is that
the
addition?
same.
Destiny costs about $8,000 a year to run. Mac and Vision this upcoming year will cost about $10,000 to implement and then run. So turning over all the libraries and then running. It'll cost us about $3,000 in personnel costs to pay the teachers to be able to turn the library systems over and then be trained.
Thank you.
Yes,
I was just scanning quickly and I happened to notice, there's still a line item for Destiny Library hosting, 8,100. Didn't that go away?
That should have been, that's in there, that is a mistake. Thank you for that.
I just saved the district.
And never would have made it past the PL, but that's, I'll make a note of that. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you. Any questions?
I'm just curious why, do we need to provide all of our students the Chromebooks? I'm just wondering how difficult it is for kids to use their
So
laptops.
they can use their own, so the nice thing with Google is they can use at home especially, they can use their own device. In school, the experience can be a lot more efficient when it's on a Chromebook because we can manage and we can basically configure it behind the scenes. So certain things like Clever is a good example. Clever is one of the applications that the students will use to go to a lot of the curriculum sites. That's where the Chromebook really becomes beneficial because we can start to configure it automatically for the students. So if we log into the Chromebook, they'll see a tab that says it's like a Clever and it's been configured. So it kind of just streamlines the process for them, especially during testing. When we do NJSLA testing, it's nice to have the students have their own device. We make sure the device is configured and ready to go for testing.
I believe we also have certain software on all the Chromebooks, like GoGuardian.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
which they
for
wouldn't be able to
protection.
implement, yeah.
Yeah, we have to do that for too. Yeah, absolutely.
One more question.
Sure.
The, can you remind me for Go Guardian, because I remember there were like different package options.
Sure.
I know the 8th graders in Mr. Daly's class
They
were
don't
all,
like
I know, so I feel like I have to ask on their behalf,
Or-
what our package includes for that.
Sure. So there's 3 components to GoGuardian. One's the internet filter that we have to do, and that is pushed out to all the Chromebooks, so that we have to provide filtering for the internet. The second piece is classroom management, and that the teachers will use to manage their classes through a separate application on the GoGuardian. So the teachers really like that because they could see on their laptop all the screens of the students as they're working on the assignment, so things like that. And the final piece is Beacon, which is a safety mechanism. That's a component that helps identify if there's any potential threats or concerns to the administration, so they can intervene and investigate.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to pass the presentation over to Stacy Beagle and from the Pupil Services.
Oh my gosh.
I'm Stacy Beagle, Director of Pupil Services.
Anthony Tumlo, Supervisor of SEL and Special Projects. Together, we are the Pupil Services Department.
Tonight, we are here to present the 2025.
2026 budget. Take it away, Stace.
Thank you. Please know, I intended to be here tonight. Dr. Hart was very disappointed. So in 13 minutes, Mr. Tumalo and I, along with Matt, put this together.
You're welcome.
Glad you got that as an accomplishment.
Well, welcome everyone.
How could you
So I know
behave
we
on
have-
your last one?
It's my last, I've got a couple more
I
board
asked you, Dr.
meetings.
Hart, I did ask today, earlier, and you said,
I
no,
said
we're
we
gonna
were going to
behave.
behave.
I said,
We were going to
okay, she's
behave.
my boss, I gotta listen to her, so.
New board, but superintendent took over. But anyhow, I know we have some new members tonight, and what I did want to start off with just talking about our department, because we have a very, very large department. It's not only, we don't only service children with IEPs and 504, but we really do service the entire district. So in our department, let me just share with you, we have our nurses, we have 6 nurses within the district. We have 8 child study team members. We have 7 school counselors. We have 3 behavior specialists. We have 5 speech and language specialists. Additionally, we have several self-contained programs. We have 2 emotionally regulation impairment programs. We have 3 LLD programs. We have 2 autism programs, and we have 1 preschool disabilities program projected for next year. We have 2 ESL teachers. So in our department, we have a vast group of professionals and specialties. In addition to all of that, we have OT and our occupational therapists and physical therapists that we consult with. We also have, under our umbrella, we have our preschool program. Although our preschool program is primarily funded under the PEA, that also does come underneath our umbrella. So in terms of looking at, for next year, we don't have any budget, we don't have any new initiatives that we are moving forward. We are enhancing the programs that we already have established, whether it be special education, whether it be ESL, whether it be SEL. So we are just enhancing the programs that we currently have. In terms of recurring items, in my budget, we have out-of-district tuitions. Currently projected, we will have 6 out-of-district students that will be going to specialized programs, private schools. In addition to not only our special education, we also have a student who is going to a charter school. So that also comes underneath our the pupil service department budget. That is a general education student. Some of our out-of-district tuitions, as you'll see, where there's no impact, we have budgeted through IDEA other out-of-district tuitions. Department supplies and materials. As I started, underneath this department, we have a variety of different groups. So the department supplies and materials, that encompasses all of the speech, child study team, in addition to just our toners, our paper. So that line item looks a lot, but remember, the people who are underneath our department, we are buying supplies for. Included in that is also some of our specialized curriculum that we purchase for our self-contained programs. This includes for our kindergarten through grade 3. We are using the Foundations reading program as our primary program, and then we're supplementing the district program. We are also providing Wilson instruction in grades 4 through 8, which requires an additional different materials and resources, just words, touch math. Also under this is many of our students in our autism program require using augmentative devices. So under this, we also have our iPads and we have our specialized programs that are programmed into our iPods for these children to be able to communicate. Outside of the special education, underneath this line item, we include all of our nursing services, and that is for the district. Supplying all of our health offices with the materials that we need, in addition to back to child study team, all of our testing protocols and speech supplies. So I guess what I'm saying is that when you're looking at my supplies and materials, it is for a vast group of people that are all very specialized. Our department professional development. I know that Mrs. Pouch and Dr. Brown talked about that they had cut their professional development. We also did too. But again, looking back at the professionals that are in our department, they require specialized professional development. Our nurses are not going to benefit really from when we have a dyslexia speaker come in on March 14th. They really need different type of professional development. So underneath that professional development is multi-tiered in terms of what our staff need. Something above and beyond what can be provided at our teacher academies, what can be provided during our in-services. They need above and beyond training. So that is why our professional development was so high. In addition to that, under our professional development, we also do pay for general education teachers to go to attend trainings. Trainings in PE for adaptive PE. We will train our teachers, send them out if there are for behavioral issues, so that it doesn't just, it's not just special ed, we also provide, we pay for trainings for our general education teachers as well. Our related services and purchase professional services. What this is it is outside of the district services that we need. What this includes is we are partnered with the New Jersey Commission of Blind. We have one student who is visually impaired. So we have someone that comes in and provides services to the student as well as training for our teachers. We outsource our occupational therapy and our physical therapy with agencies who provide services to our students, and also they provide ESY services. Our other purchase services, what that includes is any of the testing that cannot be done in district by our social workers, our LDTCs, and our school psychologists. This can include our mental health evaluations, our occupational therapy and physical therapy evaluations, our bilingual child study team evaluations, psychiatrics that are not only for our special education students, but for our general education students, neurologicals, and we also do have a teacher of the deaf that comes in to service 5 of our students. She not only provides services to our students, but she also consults with our general education special education teachers. In addition, our OT and our PT also provide services such as consultation. A child might not need a full evaluation and our services, but our OT and our PT will go in and work with our general education our teachers, providing in-class supports for those students. Bedside instruction is something that is provided for any special education student or general education student that is placed out for medical reasons. So again, that services both special education students and general education students. Are there any questions with what I have just bombarded you with?
So I have a question. I don't understand the recurring item of out-of-district tuition, but then there's no impact out-of-district tuition.
So we actually, in our budget, we split tuitions. I take a budget item for tuitions in this budget, but then I also budget for out-of-district tuitions out of IDEA. We project for certain students that might go out, so we put a, what is that called, like a line holder in for students that we are anticipating going out of district.
So is that like a grant? What is IDEA?
IDEA, yes, that is a grant for special education, that's a federal grant that we receive.
My question, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, when you opened up the BD classrooms. Is that, are
That's
they
PRI, yes, that's the emotional regulation, it's changed, the code has changed. So we currently have that at our Three Bridges school. For next year, we are projecting that some of those students are graduating and then are moving to Hollenbrook. So we're looking to open up a new classroom at Hollenbrook for those students.
And that it would still continue at Three Bridges too? Or
Yes,
is it?
yes, we will still have students at Three Bridges. Okay.
You go first.
Because so many of the services that you provide are very specialized and could be one student here or there, how do you manage the variability? Like, do we always know who's going to need some kind of special out of school placement?
Well,
that
so
costs a lot of
also
money?
what's not in here is that magic 8-ball that I have, that I use, but no, we don't. And what I do, when it comes to this is I take a look at historical data in terms of where we are and then projecting that way. When I first started here, I had a projection of 4 years, in terms of where our students were going to be, what programs we were going to need. Within the past 2 months, we've had 4 students move into this district that required specialized instruction that we had not planned for. That was not in my magic 8-ball. So it's really very difficult. We do use historical data. We look at trends in terms of trying to project ahead, looking at the students that we currently have in program right now, looking 2 and 3 years in advance. Right now I am setting up for the director coming in what it could look like in 2 years with the numbers that we currently have that will help in terms of projecting for staffing and for programming.
So do you build in any buffer just in case, because?
So we do, as I shared, we are looking at 2 students right now that we do not think are going to be able to find success right now in district. So I have buffered line items for that out of district, tuition. We have built in opportunities for professional development, money for services. It really is, this is a very challenging, because you just never know. We could be all set with what we are doing with our programs, with our staff, and come, August 31st, we could have a family move in that requires ESL services, that requires an out-of-district placement, that requires an autism program. We just don't know. But we use all of the resources right now that we have. We work very closely with early intervention, identifying students that are coming, coming our way. But we don't know who's going to be moving into the district.
And does that, last part of the question, I'm looking at one of the items, the health services purchase, I guess, Prof Tech. It was budgeted for 14,000 and change. The actual was almost 74,000, and now it's budgeted again for 9,000. That's a huge swing.
There are, yes, and sometimes there are things that come up during the year. For example, we had to, like this year, we had to purchase a vision screener that was not planned. So that's what made that, that go up, and our secretary, Jerry Glacken, is magical when it comes to our budget and finding money. So there's certain things that come up that we don't anticipate. But we are able, working with Mr. Bowen and his department to be able to move money around in order to be able to get those, whether it be a vision screen or what we need to make sure that our students get what they need and our staff get what they need to be able to do their job. Does that make sense?
It sure does.
Okay,
Thank you very
good.
much.
Good.
You actually answered my question with Carolyn, so I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right.
Approximately how many students do we service?
A little over 300 in terms of special education students, and 504 students, I want to say,
Probably
50-ish, yes,
50-ish, yeah.
50-ish, yes.
Yeah, roughly.
I will now turn it over to Mr. Tubalo.
So a lot of the items that I've kind of highlighted, again, are just recurring have been in place from year to year. New Jersey Child Assault Prevention Program, we've been doing this for several years. In previous years, and most likely this coming year as well, it's grant funded, but we do just budget to make sure that we have a line, just in case that we don't get the full amount of the full grant. But every year we get the funding, so so hopefully that'll happen. Yes, and it's a great program. It's through Higher Prevention Services resources. They come in and they provide trainings to and specific lessons in child assault prevention for grades 3, 5, and 8. I also budget for the New Jersey School Counseling Conference. Again, that's something that we've been doing every year for our counselors. It's really important, as Ms. Spiegel had said, that we make sure we budget for our school counselors because they need to be up to date with current and latest mental health resources and how to service our students and our staff. So several of the workshops are for counselors specifically. The next is for department PDs and workshops, district SEL supplies, and that also goes to for our school counselors and for classrooms, and then just general department and supply materials for the counseling department. So, questions under my agenda?
I know we didn't get to fully tackle this in EdTech, but I know that you had mentioned chronic absenteeism as something that's on the radar. Do you foresee any budget implications for that? Is there anything?
So specifically right now, we're looking at, for one of my goals this year is specifically looking at our ML population in terms of chronic absenteeism, and we're tracking that. Right now, I don't have full answer for you, but based on the data that I collect after this year, we'll make decisions and decide if we need to make any adjustments for budgets for the following year, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Great, thank you.
Good, thank you.
So much. Thank you.
Oh, we are now turning it over to, who are we turning it over to? Dawn. Hey, Nick.
Sorry, I can't be as flashy. My material is not quite as exciting as that, but okay. Good evening, I'm Don Brace, the facilities manager for the district. For our new members, really the role and mission of the facilities department is to provide a comprehensive program of maintenance and custodial services that clean and maintain the building safely and effectively to ensure the classroom environment will support the strategic education goals of the district. Right, we are a staff of 25 during the day, and then we have 12 at night. So we have 12 in the daytime, 12 at night, plus myself. We handle the day-to-day operations of the district, right? So in the budget here, projected budget for 25-26, you see is a little over 2.3 million, which is a change of 42 million projected. Some of the recurring items that I have listed here on my summary is really just some of these things that are some of the higher priced recurring items that happen in my budget. Of course, our custodial cleaning services or nighttime custodians are subbed out to a company. People here are great. They're great people. They have a supervisor at night as well. Some of them have been here as long as we've been outsourced. So it's a great group of people at night. So at the end of 2020, this school year, we will come to the end of their current 2-year contract. We have the opportunity to renew that contract for 1 year, for 2 years. So which means we could have the same company here for 2 more years. At the current, and this year's projected is 3% increase from this previous year. Next is security services, which are wonderful SROs through the Reading Township Police Department. There's salary increases in there every year as well. Trash and recycling is a big one too. We are in year 2 of a 3-year contract with Republic Services, and that's that increase. Of course, I have to pay my share of the liability insurance for the district. Well water management and water testing services. We have seen more stringent rules and regulations coming up through NJDEP, which is causing those increases. They've gone through a major kind of reorganization through the NJDEP since COVID. So they're starting to really ramp up these compliances for well water. We've seen increases, and we're still seeing a little bit of materials take a little longer to get from COVID, custodial supplies, mainly paper products and cleaning supplies. And down bottom, energy, natural gas, energy, and solar. As you've probably seen in your home bills as well, you see major increases in the cost of natural gas and the cost of electric. And that's on the generation side. It's on which fluctuates, it's a commodity. Energy is a commodity. So we've seen major increases in those prices. Questions before I move on to my last couple items that I have? Okay. So with us hopefully moving forward with the referendum and things we want to do with the referendum, we've kind of scaled back some projects we're doing in the district. We're still looking at doing some small-scale maintenance projects this summer that we can fund through this year's budget. So we'll be able to do that and then do that work over the summer. And of course, the solar expansion, which is in the works. Hopefully, we'll get this going this spring, this summer, with the bulk of the installation happening over the summer, this summer, and getting this up and going and running in the fall. That's being budgeted by a PP, which is a power purchase agreement with the vendor, which basically is we allow them to use our property for their equipment, and then we buy the electric that it generates. So this will be an expansion to one we already have, our current solar system. We are about 7.5, almost 8 years into that 15-year PPA agreement. After that agreement is over, more likely that the company will sell us the equipment becomes ours. That's going to happen with this new one as well. The new solar expansion is not quite as big as the original one we did. But we don't have, I don't have actual cost per kilowatt hour. I don't have that information yet, as we're still working through getting the PPA agreement up and going. But we're looking, to save another 5 or 10%, $10,000 on top of the already 35 we're saving with our current solar project. So hopefully that'll continue to offset some of those higher prices we're paying for now. Questions?
For the solar expansion, I know that sometimes stuff falls into other budget lines. Is there any budget impact for solar?
What will happen with our new expansion?
Yeah, expansion.
If you look on the energy line there, right, you'll see the energy line is on JCP&L. So when we find out what we're generating, what we're paying, what we're everything else, which is probably going to take a good school year to figure out what we're doing. Basically, the money we will start paying the new vendor will come out of that JCP&L line item. The money that we will be paying them, that we're saving for them, will be shifted over into another thing. You can see it on here now, right? Amoresco has its own line item because we know what it costs every year to pay for that electric that's on that grid. We won't be able to tell from the new solar for at least a year or so, and then we'll be able to know. And then it just, JCP&L and PSE&G are really just our service providers, right? We're paying for the infrastructure, we're paying for that. But then we have some third-party vendors that actually generate electricity. And we're buying that from them. So you'll see next year this time, you'll see You will see a line item for the new solar vendor with a budget line item.
Just trying to figure out, so on the last page, what's the difference between these numbers and the page below, where I'm looking at the fund totals?
Yes.
What's the difference between, I guess, the 1100s, the 11 series and the 12 series? Like, what's the last page? How is that different?
11 is our general budget. Fund 12 is capital products, is capital expense.
So for the future budgeted amount for 2026, they're both the same number. Is that the way it's supposed?
I mean, I see, well, I'm looking at future 2026, right? You're looking at future 2026.
Future budget
It
2026.
says 2.348.
Right, for
Right.
the 11 series, and then the next one on 12 is the exact same number. Is that, fund for the report.
So you're looking on the last page, page
Oh, I'm
5 or
sorry, I
6?
see. So the two fund totals
They're adding them together.
added
Zero
together,
plus
yeah.
seven.
Right.
I'm sorry, yeah, I see it now. The other one has no budget for 2026.
Right, Fund 12 has no
Yes.
budget.
No budget for 2026.
There's no budget for Fund 12. Like I said, we're trying we're not gonna use any money out of Fund 12 for this coming year.
Okay.
Since it's with everything going on with the referendum, we will hold off on using the 12 fund money at this point.
I got it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm going to introduce Ms. Marcy Cole, Transportation. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I am Marcy Cole. I am the Transportation Supervisor. The Transportation Department consists of an in-house operation, a supervisor, dispatcher, clerk, mechanic, 19 bus drivers, along with shared services with Branchburg Board of Education, their dispatcher, mechanic, bus drivers, and their supervisor. We help each other out when we can with routes and trips and whatever. We do use Hunterdon ESC for basically our out-of-district routes. The department has 21 big buses, 54 passengers, and 6 vans in the fleet. Covers to and from school routes, field trips, athletics, inter-office mail. So what I have outlined here is my big ticket items in my budget, reoccurring every year. Transportation stipends, that's when we hire people, when they get their CDL and they sign on with us, they get a stipend. If they come to us with their CDL already, there's a stipend. Gas, diesel, been a significant increase the last few years. A new bus with a camera. The price of buses have gone up significantly the past couple of years, few years, I should say. Bus parts to fix and maintain the buses. Of course, our general liability insurance, our share. All the buses that are out of warranty, external bus repairs that our mechanic cannot do. That's a big ticket item every year in the budget. Our shared services with Branchburg for our bus garage rental. Sports busing. What we have, we have drivers that do sports, and we have Mr. Fernandez from the middle school that does sports, which he absolutely loves. And then sometimes we have to rely on Branchburg to help us out, or Tewksbury. Then is our ESC management fee for our outsourced routes. Our aid in lieu, it's private school transportation reimbursement. That has gone up significantly in the past 2 years. And then the other routes are homeless routes, students that are homeless more or less. We transport them to wherever they are living to Reddington if they come from Reddington. And that's about it. Any questions?
Quick question, are the bus aids are not part of your budget, or they are?
No, they're not.
Preschool? Okay.
The one question I have, I see the line item for the ban for the preschool groups for $75,000. Was that, what would it?
That's just that we budgeted for a third of the cost of the bus.
So that was.
So this way, if there's any money left over at the end of the year, we can put it towards that $75,000.
I saw that overall it's going up $64,000. What's the biggest driver of that? Is it the diesel cost, or is that a couple general liability?
It's the out-of-district routes.
Out-of-district routes.
Yeah, the prices of the contractors and the contractors' companies have gone up significantly in the past few years. That's the major cause of that.
How many out-of-district routes are there?
This year we have 6, and that's including the homeless students that we have this year. And a lot of them I try to, say if they go to Lakeview School, I try and put them on a route that's already going there so that we share the cost of the route, so it's a little bit cheaper on everybody.
Marcy, can you just remind the board, how long are we able to keep a bus operational? And when do we have to discontinue our buses based off of the fleet list? The board also has the fleet list, so you can see
Right.
the year, the year of the make.
Yes, the state says we can keep a school bus on the road for 20 years. It used to be 15. Keeping a school bus on the road for 20 years is nearly impossible. It was hard to do for 15. It's nearly impossible for 20. Wear and tear, the salt and the brine on the roads, it wreaks havoc on the underneath. After a while, you're putting more money into the motor and all the tires, and they just don't build them like they used to.
So does that mean like you have 2 buses from 2008 that you'll be putting a request in soon to have those replaced?
Yes, actually we still have them. The bus number 2, we have to dispose of that for the electric bus. And bus number 3, that's another case of keep it on the road for 20 years, it's not gonna make it.
Okay.
So we'll probably put that on Gov Deals.
I mean, it does look like we have quite a few buses that are more recent,
Yes,
right?
yes, we've been very lucky in the past of buying new buses and keeping the fleet up.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like we're gonna lose like half our fleet, in the next couple of years or something.
Yeah,
We do our best to try to stagger the purchase of
Yeah.
buses based off of the year. Because was it just recently, we had a bunch, like 5, come off the road, and it was just, we were able to keep up with purchases.
yes,
And
thankfully.
we were very nervous about those buses coming off the road because we lost like 5 in 1 year, but we were able to keep up
Yeah,
in recent years.
we've been very lucky with keeping up with the ones purchasing to replace the ones that have to come off the road.
That was in 2022. You see, we bought a bunch in 2022. That was to replace that fleet that came off the road. But we try not to buy that many in one year because it's just gonna, the next superintendent's gonna have to worry about that. The next transportation person, maybe Jason will still be here. But 20 years from now, I'm not worried about in 2042, when buses coming off the road.
What is the average cost for the vans as opposed to like the clean diesel?
The average cost we just purchased a 29 passenger van. That was, I believe, 125.
Because I'm just looking at the 2010s and 2011 coming up and, just a few. That needs to be replaced.
So, yeah, so the new bus for the camera was 126, so the van was 125, the bus was 126.
The 126, that was cut, for budget cuts. A new bus, goes for about between 150 and 160. And the vans aren't too far from catching up to the big buses.
Just from a safety perspective, there's a big difference between a 2010 bus versus 2025, like technology, safety, student experience.
I wouldn't say they're all built about the same, but the newer buses have the shoulder strap seatbelts. The older buses just have the lap belts. The vans that we have, they have the built-in car seats versus our older vans that we have, they just have the shoulder belt. But like I said, the 29 passenger that we just purchased has, out of 29 seats, there are 17 car seats in it for preschoolers, special education students who need it. So yes, the newer ones are built better than the older ones. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I have the pleasure of talking about two sections of the budget. First is the central administration. So if you open up that document, that encompasses primarily Dr. Hart in my area. We have 2 administrators, which for us do, and 6 support staff members. Basically, you would think about everything that handles HR, payroll, accounting, all purchases in the district run through us. New initiatives, there's only one. Our strategic plan is ending. So our 5 years are elapsing, and you're gonna have the results of that coming up at a future board meeting. But we're planning for next year. Next year, we're gonna have the process of developing a new strategic plan. So that's a new initiative that you see in the budget there on the 1-page summary memo. And then I just highlighted recurring items by price, and this is the actual budget amount. See, it's pretty much what you would think would be in there. It's legal, it's audit fees, general liability insurance, basic software for sub-absences, policy, hiring. You have professional development for the board members that are here, as well as myself and Dr. Hart. Advertising and communications. New Jersey school boards, which is mandated. Garden State Coalition of Schools, which is optional. Mail, general supplies, copiers, shredding. We do have a small budget for recruitment and retention. So that's to try to get the best teaching staff and other people in the district. And I know Jim didn't mention what E-rate is for, but just so everyone here knows, E-rate's a federal grant where we get 40% back from the federal government for either internet. So we do that on an annual basis. We get 40% of our costs back for internet. And also every 5 years, we get a new pot of money to do back-end equipment. So we get 40% off for back-end equipment. So if we fill out the grants properly, if we do $200,000 worth of back-end IT switches and things like that, we get 80 grand. So those are the kind of things that we do in central administration. Before I go to the next, that's the summary of my budget. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
And just a tying the numbers for me. At the top of the page, or the top of your presentation, you say that the total budget is 340,000, which I see ties to the bottom where it totals. But the year-over-year change, wouldn't that be the difference column? And why are they all off by 10%, a factor of 10?
So
This is the third one, I've seen that tonight. I know there's a reason, I just don't know what it is.
you cannot trust the difference column on any budget reports. So if you look at the difference column, which is after 2026 on any report, you cannot trust it. The reason why is the state of New Jersey mandates how this report comes out. It also mandates how the report secretary and all the reports that you guys see. Basically, whenever we transfer money from one line to the other in the current year budget, it adjusts the current year. So imagine if I put an extra $100,000 into Dr. Hart in my budget this year. Well, when we budget next year, say we're flat, it will show a decrease of $100,000 because we moved money from a different department into Dr. Hart's in my budget. So the adjusted budget isn't real. It's taking money from a different department and moving to this department. So you really can't rely on the adjusted budget column, which is 2025. You actually have to look at this budget report and then go into last year's BOE portal at this time last year, and pull up the same report and go year over year.
The adjusted budget column is going to track any transfer that happens during the current year. So it's tracking any transfer that occurred. So any change in that amount of money from when we struck the budget last year is reflected in the adjusted budget line.
So I've been looking at the bottom of the reports for the total and seeing a lot of differences are all in red and thinking this is wonderful. But I'm not seeing it reflected in the, so should I mean, maybe we shouldn't have the adjusted budget or that difference on it.
You can't change it because it's a state mandated, which is why if you look at the one-page memo, so if you go to the one-page memo that says, second attachment that says major modifications, that's the true difference in each department budget. So you actually have to go to the one-page memo that I provided you, second attachment, you get a bottom. You can also do that yourself by looking at last year's budgets and this year's budget and then subtracting the two. But that's the only way to do it because I can't change the reports that come from the state. They're mandated this way.
Very misleading.
They are. They completely are.
Because every time I look at it, I'm like, wow, we're saving tons and tons of money.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is, like it says, for 2024 is 313,000, and 2025 is 340. So although the difference is some number we can't trust, it's really just going up 27,000, I guess, right? That's the way I would read that.
Yeah, the 24 number is from actual orders from 23-24.
Yeah.
So yes, it went up that much over the course of 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
I went to the school board's board of directors meeting, and they actually just passed their budget 2 weeks ago, and they had said to spread the word to your business administrators that the dues are going to be increasing by 1.5%. So I don't know if you got that same memo. Okay. Yes. Good.
Yeah, the New Jersey school board fees are mandated by law, so it's similar to taxes.
But they would always give that information after everyone was already working on budgets, and it was way too late. So they were trying to do better this year.
Any other questions for this specific department? All right, so the second part, which I'll brief you that you really can't ask a lot of questions until executive session. Personnel and benefits. So if you pull up that attachment, or if you look at the significant budget modifications, it's almost identical. 88% of the district's budget is personnel and benefits. So all the departments that you heard this evening represent 12% of our budget. Personnel and benefits make up 88% if you include land custodian. Every single item in personnel and benefits goes up more than 2%. So when we're talking about tax levy increases, just realize that 88% is going up more than 2%. Taxes have been going up relatively small amount over the years because we've been, through the finance committee and the board, doing our due diligence to try to keep taxes as low as possible. But this coming year, we're going to have teacher increases of 3.4%. We're going to have staff increases of 3.6%. Those are mandated by contract. The administrators union is going to have an increase of 3.3%. And then we have our unaligned, which is up to the board to decide how much we give them. Health benefits. The state plan for health benefits this year went up 15%, and prescription went up 28%. So health benefits is our second highest cost. It's over $6 million. So these are the numbers that we're talking about. General liability insurance has gone up somewhere between 5 and 10% every single year. So inflation, obviously everyone's seeing the price increases in their own household. The board is not immune to that. What we've been doing over the years to try to mitigate that is to squeeze that 12% department budgets and also be as efficient as possible with staff to maintain the programs that we have here. So we have not had a significant change in our programming, and we've been able to enhance specific areas based on the needs of the children. So we've been doing that with minimal tax increases over the years. But we are getting to a point where inflation and the cost of things is more than we probably can handle long term. And you've seen that statewide. So you see other districts cutting transportation, outsourcing. Our goal here is to not do any of that and to keep our programs and education as strong as possible and to support the teaching staff and to the students. So we're going to go into detail about personnel and benefits in executive session, so I can tell you to wait until then. But I'll give you an update on what the major changes are coming for personnel and benefits, as well as the tax levy increase for the current year. Any non-personnel questions?
No. Does this include bus driver salaries?
It does. Yes. Yeah. Well, I thank you for your time this evening. And is there any other just general questions before we stop budget presentations for anyone? Myself. So I'd like to just thank, the departments did a great job this year. We put a lot of pressure on them to make sure their budgets were as efficient as possible. And the finance committee and the board has been great over the years with making sure that we're cognizant of the taxpayers as well as supporting the staff and students. So appreciate your time.
That concludes my superintendent's report. Are there any questions from members of the board for any of the administrators before I ask them to go drive safely home? Before they leave.
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. And that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the public comments, limited to actions on the agenda. So if anyone would like to make comments in regards to items on the agenda, please come up to the podium. Or if there's anyone online, which I'm sure there is. All right, this is certainly those. All right, let's move on. Okay. There were no correspondences, so we're now going to go to the next item, board action. We can go through each of the items. The first one is approval of administrative reports. It's going to be items 1.01 to 1.03. Can I get a motion and a second on 1.01 to 1.03?
Motion, Ellen?
Second, anyone?
Second, Justina?
All right, Linda. Okay. All right. Okay, any discussion?
Mrs. Cassidy,
Yes.
Mrs. Fury,
Yes.
Mrs. Bogorski,
Yes.
Mrs. Raddick,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo.
Yes.
Passes.
Excellent, thank you. Next item is for the approval of the minutes. It's motions 2.01 and 2.02. Can I get a motion and a second for those two items? Motion.
Motion, Ellen? Justina, second?
Cool. Any discussion?
Mrs. Cassidy,
Yes.
Mrs. Fury,
Yes.
Mrs. Bogorski,
Yes.
Mrs. Raddick,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto,
Abstain.
Mr. Rizzo.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, thank you. So next is financing facilities. Few items. We got 3.01 through 3.09, and then a committee report as well. So can I get a motion to adopt 3.01 and through 3.09?
Justina, motion.
Okay. So since Michelle's not here, I'm going to go through the committee report. So the committee members is Michelle, the chair, Paolo, myself, and Justina was absent. We met. Dr. Hart and Jason were there as well. We discussed a few items. The first one was the Ryerson Road property. The district discussed the Ryerson Road property. The next is we discussed the 25-26 budget. The committee reviewed the budget timelines and historical tax adjustments over the prior 10 years, which ranged from 0.0% to 4.4%. The 2025-2026 estimated costs for salaries and benefits were reviewed, where it was clear that these expenses alone would require an increase in taxes. After discussion, the committee agreed to support a 3.7% tax increase, which would enable the school to continue functioning with the current level of services and staff. The committee discussed the budget cap of 2% and noted that due to lower budget increases in prior years, the district was able to bank the amount, aka bank the cap, and utilize these saved funds, including a healthcare adjustment in the 2025-26 budget, to exceed the 2% cap. A key assumption in this budget proposal is no change in state aid, which will be known definitively in early March. A detailed overview of the next steps and timing between now and the vote on the final budget in April were reviewed. The committee agreed to move the architect and bond counsel fees topic to the February 11th BOE agenda. The third item is the bill list was made available to the committee to review. And the fourth item is we discussed having our next meeting on February 13th at 11:30 a.m. And the following one would be tentatively for April 2nd at 8:30 a.m. That is the committee report. Any discussion?
I have a question for the architect, for the referendum. I'm trying to understand the 67,500 is for, basically going through and pricing out the potential projects, is that correct?
Yes, it's doing the walkthroughs, pricing out, and then filling out the forms for the state to get that accepted so we can do the referendum and update our long-range facilities plan as well. So basically those 4 or 5 things.
So trying to get a full scope of what other services, like what are additional services to come from the architect?
So for any projects that pass the referendum, because this relates to the referendum, we would be able to choose if we were going to use this architect or another, or not use an architect at all and just do it in-house similar to what we were doing with solar. We're not using an architect moving forward for solar. Don Grace and myself are overseeing that.
But that's outside of the 65,000, that's a separate discussion.
Correct, that would be a separate discussion with a separate vote in the future if you wanted to do that.
Am I correct in saying the 67,000 also includes the submissions that need to go to the state for the referendum as well, which would be, should the board pass a resolution to go to referendum, there has to be a submission to the state done by the architect and follow-up paperwork with the DOE as well.
With architectural drawings for every project that we include in the referendum.
And Jason, the money for the architect will also get reimbursed if the referendum passes, correct?
Correct, as well as the bond council.
Any other discussion items? Okay, Mr. Bowman?
Mrs. Cassidy,
Yes.
Ms. Fiore,
Yes.
Ms. Bygorski,
Yes.
Ms. Rad,
Yes.
Ms. Ryan,
Yes.
Ms. DeVito,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo.
Yes. Okay, next is education and technology. Looks like there's 5 items, 4.01 through 4.05. Can I get a motion in a second?
Motion, Justina.
Second.
There we go. Beth, can we get a report?
No.
No, there's no report this time. Okay. Okay. All right, so any discussion on the items? Okay, Mr. Bowman?
Mrs. Cassidy,
Yes.
Ms. Fiore,
Yes.
Ms. Bygorski,
Yes.
Ms. Rad,
Yes.
Ms. Ryan,
Yes.
Ms. DeVito,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, next item is personnel. We have 10 items, 5.01 to 5.10. Can I get a motion in a second on 10 items?
Motion, Justina.
Second, Helen?
Okay, we have a committee report?
We did. We met on January 22nd, and the first point of business was to welcome Linda and David to the committee. We reviewed board goals, and then did staffing updates for the 2024 to 2025. Wow, it's hard to believe. For the staffing updates. They talked about the Director of People Services search update. We looked at the staffing projections for 2025-26 and did an enrollment review. We discussed other personnel matters, and we have on the agenda items for substitutes, new hires, leaves, and retirements. Scheduled the next meeting for Wednesday, February 19th at 8:38.
Thank you. Any discussion on those items? Okay. So,
Mrs. Cassidy,
Yes.
Ms. Fiore,
Yes.
Ms. Bygorski,
Yes.
Ms. Rad,
Yes.
Ms. Ryan,
Yes.
Ms. DeVito,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo.
yes.
Passes.
We have. All right, communication. We have 2 items, 6.1 and 6.02. Can we get a motion in a second on those 2 items?
Motion, Justina.
Second, Helen?
Okay, we have committee report?
We do, yeah. The committee met on January 23rd at 4 PM. The first thing we did was welcome Pam and Linda to our committee. We reviewed our goals, and the next thing we did was discussed on the policy review rubric. Dr. Hart and the committee reviewed a policy tracking document created by one of the committee members to help organize and keep track of the work the committee does on each of the district's policies. This tracking document will be available for future policy committees to continue to maintain the manual. The committee's goal is to review a new section of the manual at each meeting. Each section of the manual will be divided evenly between members, giving each member a set of policies to review before the next meeting where they will discuss any necessary revisions. The policy review rubric, Dr. Hart created a rubric to help us guide the committee as they review each policy. The rubric will help determine if the policy is clear, applicable, supports current laws, statutes, and code, up to date, and meets district needs. The committee discussed strategy and tools to supplement the rubric for the review. We then went on to discuss the key communicators meeting. One of the board and district's goal is to enhance our communications with the larger community. A recommendation that came out of the communication survey last year was forming a key communicators group. This is an opportunity for the district to have back and forth communication with community stakeholders who are invested in the success of the district. The superintendent will chair the group and may designate a chairperson for the group as well. Key stakeholders that may be invited to participate include alumni, parents, Board of Education members, Education Foundation, HSA member, Education Association leadership, current and retired staff members, students of the civics class, post-secondary partners, legislators, local business owners, the mayor, religious leaders, police chief, local media, and realtors. Each meeting will include up to 3 topics. Student or participant presentations and a financial update will be provided annually. The group will meet at least 3 times per year at the district where light refreshments will be served. It is possible that some meetings may be virtual, but the goal is to have them in person at a mutually agreeable date and time. Electronic invitations will be sent out to facilitate the collection of RSVPs. This will be a great way for the district to share news and accomplishments with the community and review their important feedback. We then went on to review Alert 234. They all related to the MOA with law enforcement. These policies help govern our relationship with our police department. The MOA changed, so we need to update our policies and regulations to reflect these changes. And the following policies are recommended to be brought to the next board meeting for first read. Policy 5512, harassment, intimidation, or bullying. It's a mandated policy, was revised, had minor revisions and strike-throughs to make the language reflect the changes made to the MOA. Policy 5533, student smoking, it's mandated policy and revised. The committee reviewed the minor updates to the policy. A board member requested that other controlled dangerous substances be included in the first sentence in addition to tobacco use, and the other board members agreed. Policy 7441, electronic surveillance in school buildings and on school grounds. This is a mandated policy. It was revised. There were minor strike-throughs made and language added pertaining to providing law enforcement with the capacity to activate live streaming equipment during an emergency situation. Regulation 7441, electronic surveillance in school buildings and on school grounds. The changes there included minor language pertaining to live streaming during an emergency situation and contact information of those who are authorized to activate the equipment. Policy 9320, cooperation with law enforcement agencies, minor changes to the language to match the changes to the MOA. And Regulation 9320, cooperation with law enforcement agencies, minor changes to the language to include cannabis throughout the regulation, and the addition that the superintendent shall designate a point of contact for each school building who shall be responsible for receiving all handle with care notices for students in accordance with the MOA. We then went on to discuss other policies for Alert 234, Policy 5710, student grievance. The changes to this policy involve the manner in which student grievances shall be heard. There are now 3 levels outlined and a timeline for staff members, principals, and the superintendent to respond. And also Policy 9163, the Spectator Code of Conduct for Interscholastic Events. This policy is new and optional. The committee feels it is necessary. One board member asked if it can be integrated with Policy 9161, crowd control, 9160, public attendance at school events, as well as 2431, athletic competition. The committee agreed to review this when we review the 9,000 section of the manual and consider combining all of these into one comprehensive policy. One board member recommended posting the policy at events. This will be discussed again in committee. The agenda items were policies 5512, 5533, 7441, 9320, and 5710. And our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, February 24th at 4 p.m.
Thank you. So any discussion?
I have 2 questions. For the policy tracking document, will that be available to all board members?
We didn't really discuss it in committee. It's really a working document for those that are on the committee. I mean, I think after maybe we first put in our comments and I think the recommendations, let me say this, I think that the tracking document will be important to track policies for any board member or any board in the future. I think what's on the document now, and we should separate them before we do it, before we make it public or make it available to any other board member, is all of the comments and review rubric is also in the document. What I would do is separate that out and keep the tracking document available for all board members so that we would have it as a board, but keep all of the comments and the evaluation of each individual board member of each individual policy totally separate.
Because that would just come up in one of your meetings, right, and then brought to the full board?
Exactly,
Okay.
because if there is a change to a
Yeah.
policy, the change will be recommended in committee, it'll be outlined in a new policy, and then the policy will have to go through first read and second read by the full board. So the full board will know what the committee's recommending in terms of changes to any policy, because that'll come to the full board. But having that rubric be part of the tracking document will eventually be removed, and then we can use this as a legacy document to track all of our policies in
Okay,
the
no, it's
future.
great. My other question was not, yeah, I guess it is a question, the key communicators meeting, I love that idea, so thank you to the committee. When do we think we're gonna get that like rolling?
I sent out the first email saying I'd like you to sit on the committee to all of the individuals, and said that another email will be coming setting a date at the very end of March, like
Okay,
March
great.
25th
I
or
love it.
27th, something like that. Mrs. DePinto is going to represent the board as the chair of communications on the committee. We have HSA, I've heard from a faith leader, press, RTA and RTAA representation, some local businesses, so we even brainstormed a couple of others to add to that. Realtors love coming in and having a meeting with their realtors and just really enjoy their breakfast and conversation.
No, it's a great idea,
Every year,
I love
so.
it.
Any other comments, discussion? Mr. Bowman?
Mrs. Cassidy,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mrs. Pogorski,
Yes.
Mrs. Rad,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay. Does anyone have any unfinished business they'd like to discuss? Okay then. Next thing is new business from the board. There's 2 items on it. One is that there's going to be a special board meeting on February 25th to discuss the referendum. We'll have an agenda published as well, always when it gets closer. I don't know, Dr. Hart, do you want to add anything else on top of that? Or?
I don't think so. The primary reason will be to just go through all the projects that we're seeing on our board towards for the referendum and recommend
Okay.
projects.
Good, thank you.
Is that
And
a
then
s-
delegate reports, I don't know if any, I'm
sorry,
sorry.
excuse me, is that a 7 PM start?
I was planning on it unless we
Okay.
want to do a 6 PM start.
Just putting it in my calendar, because I didn't have it.
If the board would like, we could start at 6 because my thinking for that presentation would be to go through each one of, the slide presentations that you all have for the tours, to go through everything on those slide presentations that will make it into a final referendum. So that could be a presentation. I believe we've also invited our architect and bond counsel to come as well. So if we feel like we want to start at 6, but really the only agenda item will be to move forward with the referendum.
There might be a lot of discussion items on each of the individual items, and the public may have a lot of comments, so starting at 6 may make sense if people are available.
Did we advertise already? I probably should ask that question.
No, you can start the meeting anytime as long as you give 5 days notice. It's 48 hours required, 3 days notice today.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm okay with 6 PM start.
Everyone else okay with that?
everybody okay with that?
Let's just check.
We're all checking our calendars.
We don't have to make a decision now, so we'll
Okay.
come back with a time on that.
You probably have a lot of, you might have a lot of missed calls too on your phone. There's texts and.
I had mine in at 6 already. Did you discuss that
Wow.
already? Mine
Oh.
is 7. Oh, mine is at 7.
We did-
From the calendar from the district. It's also the same night as the TBS Science Fair. I don't know if that's a concern.
I don't think,
Does it affect anyone?
I don't think it impacts anything. It may impact the public's ability to come in
Yeah.
person, but
Okay, so we'll work out the logistics as we get closer at the time and make sure everyone's available. Next one is delegate reports. I don't know if there are any delegate meetings anyone attended that they want to discuss. Okay, move on to the next. The next item will be a executive session. And a motion to adopt, go ahead. Oh, thank you.
don't forget.
That's the important one. I went right by it. Thank you. So next we'll do open to the public. Any comments, please come to the podium or online, type in a comment or speak, and then we will go forward. All right, so now we will close open to the public and move to executive session. So before we do a motion, I'm just going to read the motion to adopt the following resolution. Resolve to adjourn to executive session in accordance with the Sunshine Law to discuss student matter, HIB, and personnel and benefits budget for approximately 45 minutes, at which time the board expects to return to public session where action shall be taken. The matters discussed will be made public if and when the circumstances requiring confidentiality no longer exist. However, it is not presently known when such circumstances will exist. So can I get a motion and a second to go to executive session?
Motion, Justina.
Mrs. Cassidy,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mrs. Begorski,
Yes.
Mrs. Radin,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo.
Yes.